I'm recording it now. So Melissa, I will definitely go back to what I said about branding in the beginning because I wasn't recording it. Darn. So what I said about branding over here is that it's how you position yourself as a trusted healer in your field. It's not just your logo and your color scheme. It's not just the way you look on the outside. It's not just how your website looks. It's the meaning behind it. It's the words that you use on your About Me page, your tagline, how you're having conversations with people, potential clients or referents that specifically let your ideal clients know that you're a great fit for them. So I used a couple of quotes from an agency called Braid Creative. I love the way that they communicate about branding. So branding is knowing and communicating who you're for and what you're best at. Branding is attracting dream customers without having to sell in an icky way. And branding is saying what you mean without having to over-explain yourself. So a few prompts that I like to ask people to fill out when we're doing branding exercises together are: people come to me for ... I'm the kind of therapist or coach who ... I want to be known for ... my clients thank me for ... And for that one, I love to have people look at thank you notes or emails, or think back on conversations they've had with clients about what it is about working with them that has stood out to them, or asking your colleagues, what stands out to them about working with you, and gathering information that way. So, Melissa, thank you so much for asking me to repeat what I said in the beginning about branding. And everyone here that's live on the call, you're so lucky you got all the info and it's not going to live on forever. And we can do a follow-up another time. So question from Rita: identifying your voice is something you make explicit? I'm not 100% sure about what your question means, Rita. Let me see if you want to jump on the line and talk it through with me. I'm happy to do that too. You can just unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi.
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 How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm really glad to connect with you. So, can you clarify your question a little bit?
Yeah, I just wanted to know. So, when you, can you give an example of how that might sound when you identify your voice? Like, would you make that explicit, or is that a way that you would you write it through your voice, or would you actually identify this is my voice?
So for yourself, so let's say we were working together.
Yes.
We would have, we'd have conversations about how you are. And are you a coach or a therapist? Or
I'm a therapist.
So we have conversations about how you are in session, how you communicate in real life about your work to people that you're comfortable around. And through that, we would identify a few different, identify a few different descriptors that talk about your voice. So, and then you would keep those for yourself as like, this is, I approach therapy with a lot of humor. So, it's okay for me to be a little humorous in my blog posts, or it's okay for me to be, to have a little more of a casual humor feel in my About page. Or one of my clients recently she can't help talking in these beautiful metaphors. It just comes very easily to her. So one of her voice descriptors is imaginative. And so she knows that she uses that as kind of a touchstone for herself, and a trigger for herself to know, like, oh, I can let myself be more imaginative in my blog posts, or on my website. So it is something we make explicit. I don't put it on the website necessarily saying, like, my voice is imaginative and humorous and honest, but it's just in the way that you write things, or the way that you speak about things. Does that make a little sense?
Yes, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Rita. Okay, let's see. Who is next? Let me go back up. Monique asks, how do you start branding if you are just starting out? I have a niche and a target audience. I just don't know how to reach using words. So it sounds like, Monique, maybe you're talking about marketing, because it sounds like you have a niche. Maybe you're not quite sure yet or you haven't identified your personal values or your voice yet. If you haven't yet, identify those. And then to reach those folks, or maybe you're talking about branding, or about what to write. So Monique, if you feel like hopping on the line, I don't know if you can unmute yourself to chat. Hello? It looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. There might be a setting on your, oh, I can sort of hear something now. Monique? Hello? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi. Oh, maybe I can't. It's going in and out. So Monique, I'll try to come back to you. I think that you sent in a message, a question earlier as well that I want to get to later. But let me make a note to come back around and try to reach you and see if the chat works again, or your mic works again later. Okay, so Gail asks, what suggestions do you have if I choose to focus on individuals experiencing microaggression, racism, and sexism in the workplace and society at large? Oh, Gail! Oh, that's such important work. And I know a lot of people, specifically here in Oakland, that would love to work through that and get that support with a therapist. So I would talk about, I would talk about on your website, talk about the experiences that people are having with that, and how therapy could help, and like what it looks like to work with a therapist around this, or what if there are any questions or obstacles people have around understanding what that is, to talk those through on your website, or not questions or obstacles understanding what that is, but just how I imagine folks might not know that this is something that you could go to support with go to a therapist to get support on. So I'd write your website speaking directly to those people, or at least a part of your website, a services page that's dedicated to that. And then from there, to get people to work with you, do the marketing piece. So once you've branded yourself in that area, talking to your clients about their experiences and how you might be able to support, and what hopes you have for your work together. You're going out and connecting with groups and organizations or community centers that your potential clients might be in. So there, at least here in Oakland, there are a lot of local groups around, so there's Black Lives Matter, and then there's Asians for Black Lives, and other folks who are more aware of microaggressions and racism, and or if there's like a women's women in business support group. There's Lean here in the Bay Area. I don't know if I forget where in the country you are, Gail, but there are Lean In groups. So the COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, I don't know if she's a COO. She is a C-level position. I wrote a book called Lean In, and now there's a bunch of groups in and around the country that support women in the workplace. So, marketing to them, but really being mindful about where your clients could be, and then having conversations with leadership in those areas, or writing articles for people in those organizations that talk about you and your work and how you can provide support. Let's see, did she have a follow-up question? Oh, Gail had to leave. Luckily, I started recording, Gail, and you'll get the answer on the recording. Let's see. Next question is Molly. Okay. Oh, so Molly, you were clarifying on your question about niching. So you say, I have no problem with the philosophy of niching. I mean, I get why and even how, but none of the things that I consider my clinical foci, I never know how to pronounce that, foci, are things I necessarily want to specialize in. It's like I relate to the person, and whatever the conflicts they bring are generally secondary. Ooh, I love that last sentence, Molly, and I feel like that's something, I don't know if you already used that on your on your website. So it sounds like you're more of a generalist, and that maybe focusing on your approach, and putting up a list of the symptoms or issues that people have, could come to you with, is useful, just as a trigger on, just to trigger folks to know that you provide support in that area, but really talking about how you relate, how you build that relationship, what your approach is as a therapist could be what you highlight. And I love that sentence. I feel like that could be a call to action on any of your pages. You relate to the person, and whatever conflicts they bring in are generally secondary. If you would like to see if we connect, set up or contact me to schedule a consultation, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and then there's a little bit of a conversation between Molly and Ariel. And then Jess, I have a question that was sent privately to me, so I'm not sure if you want me to read it out loud. If you could type in the box whether or not, or type in the chat box whether or not you want me to answer that, the private question you sent to me at 10:31 out loud. Yes, okay. So Jess says, I've healed from trauma, and this can be a source of credibility for clients to know. When I have read other healers' websites, it sometimes comes off as TMI. Can you advise how to find the balance of showing empathy from personal experience and revealing too much? I think what I would do is think about how you would talk about it, or how you would talk about it in a first, when first meeting somebody. You probably wouldn't go into as much detail. You could mention, you could mention it, but then the way that you talk about how, you could frame it as validating your clients. So talking about their experience, talking about what they might be experiencing, and what kind of support they might need, what kind of doubts they're having, what kind of hopes they have, or things that they're afraid to have, and their own experience with trauma. I think that you could mention that you've healed from trauma briefly on your about page if that feels comfortable, but then the way that you speak about it will really would really drive that point home without being explicit. Let's see if cool, that helps. Awesome. Let's see. Okay, Lisa. Like Molly, I think my niche would be more about the process than about the diagnosis presenting problem. I'm having trouble articulating the process issues in user-friendly terms. So not using jargon is I feel like that could be a completely, like a big separate conversation or tool that I could provide. So let me write that down. How to talk about your process in user-friendly terms, non-jargon. So I talk about that a little bit in my about page writing resource. So you can find that on my free resources page. It's sort of at I think it might be day 2 or 3, talking about putting your approach in terms that your client would understand, or putting your work in terms that your client would understand. But I can definitely do something deeper on that later, Lisa. And I believe since you signed up for this webinar, you're on my list. So I will definitely send that out as an extra resource. Jess asks, how do you identify which social media platforms our ideal clients are using? I'd like to know how to figure out whether to focus my marketing on Facebook, Twitter, elsewhere. I don't specialize in identifying the right social media platforms to do outreach on, but I can drum up some referrals, Jess, and see if there's any other folks in that space that could be able to provide some better strategy. Or if there's anyone else on this call that knows the answer to that, please post that in the chat. I would say, just from personal experience using social media, to focus, to start on something that feels easy for you as well, because if it doesn't feel easy for you, then you're not going to really do it, I think. And to really focus on one. Actually, something you could be able to do is go somewhere, or I don't know if you have people in your life that are close to your ideal client, but you wouldn't work with them because they're your friend or family, and ask them what they use and where they are, what they're doing. Monique. Oh, Monique. So you said your office has spotty reception. I answered your question talking about the finding your voice. Okay, thank you, Monique. Cool. Ariel asks what if you want to work with creative types, adolescents, immigration, stressors, and adoption? Is that too wide ranging? Oh, and Elizabeth's starting to answer. You could always write in ways that appeals to the personalities you enjoy working with rather than the issues you're niching in. Excellent idea, Elizabeth. I would say the same thing. And then Ariel, if you want to work with all those different types of folks and attract them to your practice, once you have your website set up, and you could have sub pages for each of those things, or you could use those niches or those audiences as ways to inform your marketing. So where are creative types hanging out? Like, what organizations are they part of that you could partner with? How do you get in front of the adolescents' parents? And then you can, if they engage with you in a really specific and focused way, either in a blog post or at a presentation or through a strong referral, then they'll come to your website and read about your approach and personality and the personalities you enjoy working with, or the place somebody needs to be in to work with you well. Then you can still cover all those people and have them have your website speak to them in that way. I think having more niches is is a lot of marketing work. So I wish you a lot of energy, Ariel. Let's see. Brett asks, tips for decluttering the mind with regard to marketing so as to make speaking from your authentic voice easier. I seem to get in my own way with regards to keywords and SEO, but of course want my message to resonate in an authentic way. I would say, Brett, I like to start working on my own stuff in the morning before I've checked my email, before I've checked the news. I've also stopped using Facebook because I find it a little too overwhelming. And then starting from there and trying to write from or just free writing, letting whatever comes out and not censoring yourself, and then coming back to it later with an editor's cap on or another cap on, and seeing what you want to pull from that in the light of day. Another strategy or modality that has been helpful to people is working in a group and getting feedback and validation from real people. So I'm actually running a writing workshop starting in the middle of the month called Write Brave, and I just did a secret run of it to some folks on the waiting list, and we would get together once a week. People would bring each page of their website, and just the way, like, more raw than they would put it on the web, and everyone else in the group would give them feedback about what was resonating, what wasn't, and then they could get, instead of getting stuck in their head about like, oh, is this too TMI, or is this unclear, or is this too long, you get real feedback from real people about it, and I find that helps and is surprising in some ways. Because I think people are a lot more patient and human and smarter able to deal with authenticity a little bit more than we think they are. So hopefully that helps, Brett. Molly, yeah, so we're talking about SEO. Molly says it's SEO that makes me want to write depression, anxiety, and grief, but I would prefer to write to the person and not the diagnosis. Yes. So for SEO, it is an ever-changing wild beast that Google's algorithms create. And more these days, writing to the person is what Google's trying to measure. So they're trying to measure, whether the content you're putting out is relevant and useful. So littering your words with too many keywords, or littering your a blog post or a page with too many keywords and making it sound like super robotic isn't going to connect with folks, and they're not going to stay on your site. It's going to sound more spammy if you do that a little bit too much. And Google knows that people have tried to play that game a lot to get hits and clicks, and they're always trying to change the way that their algorithm works. So definitely write to connect, and then use SEO. You can use SEO on the back end of your site to make it powerful. Use SEO in headings, keywords in headings, and titles, and then but write to connect and provide value. Jennifer gave folks a way for people to find out where you're hanging out online, so everyone check that out. It was around 10:46 a.m. here on the east or the west coast. She says a great way to figure out where your people hang out online is simply to ask your past clients or research them and see where they show up. Are they on Facebook, LinkedIn? Then you know where to focus your efforts, or survey your list if you have a newsletter list. Thank you, Jennifer. So Jennifer is one of my mastermind sisters here in Oakland. She's a coach. If you want to check her out, she has some resources, free resources on her website as well. Let's see. Tracy says, trying to find a thread between all of those. Oh, Aria, is there still a remove in the Right Brave coming up? I'm not sure. Are you asking if there's room, Tracy? Yes, okay. So there is still room. I actually haven't opened up, no worries, autocorrect. I haven't opened up the sales page yet, but if you're on the list, you will definitely get it sometime in the next couple of days, get an invitation. If you have any questions about it, Tracy, feel free to email me as well. And seeing your name again, actually, Tracy, reminds me that we had a few questions that came in before, and I have about 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure that I have answered them. So Monique asked in an earlier question, she submitted this earlier, how do you find someone to help design a logo for your website and other social media sites without breaking the bank? And Monique, I would say some cheaper options are to find a student, or to get a referral from for a designer who maybe lives in another country where cost of living is not as high. I know some people who have had good experiences with Fiverr, though as a designer, I would say for folks on Fiverr, definitely get a referral. It's probably not going to cost just $5, but I've heard some stories about other folks getting work on Fiverr that isn't unique, and that is like a really close copy, if not an exact copy of somebody else's logo. So definitely for whatever designer you're working with, definitely get a referral. Ask to see examples of their work, ask for testimonials, and then for yourself, know what you want. So if you need somebody to come up with a concept for you and a visual idea that communicates your brand and do some branding work, then that's going to be more expensive. But if you need somebody to create something that you already have in mind, that could be a little more affordable if you if you know what you want, but you just don't have the technical skills to put it together. Yeah. So I'm going to do another couple of questions from that were pre-submitted. So Yesenia asked, I'm nervous about coming off as unprofessional if I add my story blog on your website. And she realizes, as a woman of color, millennial, and daughter of immigrants, I need to be able to speak clear, raw, and unfiltered on issues and topics relevant as I come from the community I primarily serve. How do you navigate those worlds? Yesenia, are you on the call? Oh, yes, there you are. There's your name. I don't know if you want to unmute and have a little bit of a conversation. If not, that's cool too. Okay, yay. Let me know when you're...
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
So I've kind of been lollygagging on this. Like, I've had your emails like pile up in my inbox. And I'm like, okay, Yesenia, today's going to be the day you go through the About Me page. Today's going to be the day you go through this section. And it's, I think I realized it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's fear. Sure. And part of what I do want to do, transition, in addition to therapy, provide coaching services. And so I realized when I went through my personal journey, as I started to share more about my story, but also provide the knowledge coming from a healer's point of view.
Mm-hmm. I
had more of the ideal clients come to me and either wanting to work with me for coaching or helping them find a therapist of their own, because I made the healing journey less intimidating. And so that is what I want to do. And so I'm in this place, and it's like, even how I'm here, I had an interview scheduled and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to come to the webinar. And then literally today they were like, they canceled. And I was like, this is a sign, like, this is your time. You have to come on here. So, but I'm on another group. I'm on another group where somebody was saying, I really wouldn't shy away from that. It could be unethical if you're using your story to market. And I was thinking to myself, but by whose standards? And I come from the community. So that's the intersection that I live in, which we need to talk about intersections, right?
Yeah.
I can't hide that aspect of who I am.
I love that you had that response, like, by whose standards. And that, when I read your question, that's what popped out to me too. It's like, you're nervous about, like, a lot of us are afraid about coming off as unprofessional, but like, who is labeling us as unprofessional? Traditionally, it's unprofessional to be emotional. It's unprofessional to like be really to talk about taboo things, but like, who's labeling those things as taboo?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I found myself, like, I went through the code of ethics. Like, am I going to lose my license? Is this an ethical? And when it came down to it, I couldn't really find a reason. I looked at feminist theory and all these things. And so, but that's how much of a fear-based society that we live in. And I thought about the clients that I work in. I don't work with corporate, I work with the adolescents that are considered emo, goth, punk rocker, immigrants, And so, I guess I needed today to really help reaffirm, but also, have you ever had a time where you were just afraid, you coming from the community base? I worked for the community services board, right? So there's a lot of politics as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever receive backlash. And, you know, talking about that fear, that's part of my practice of what I do and with the coaching. And I'm even trademarking like fear is a bitch, because there's, if you look up,
Oh,
if you look up polyvagal theory, it's very much like trauma, you know, flight, fright, freeze. That is what it does to us. So I have to have that heart-centered practice. It's part of who I am. But did you ever face backlash, and how did you kind of get over that hump? Because it took me a while, but I had to seek and find people like you in groups to really feel like I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that's going through this. I'm not the only one that's a unconventional, quote unquote, unconventional healer, right?
Yeah. You know what? For the longest time, I protected myself in the same way, and so protected myself from the backlash. You know, it's like if you don't do the things you're afraid of, then the bad things aren't going to happen, but then the good things aren't going to happen too. So I mean, just recently, I've been trying to plan a little bit more how to bring some more experiences or values that I'm afraid that people will like react negatively to. And I haven't gotten any feedback that's been specifically negative. And I think a lot of it is because I work with a healer population, and folks are really caring. So I can't say that won't happen with you. I think I've been lucky that the audiences that I'm in front of, are a little less aggressive.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you live in the Bay Area, right? So it's very progressive. And I live in Virginia, but not like the South. I live in Northern Virginia, which is right by Washington, D.C. And it's very transient. You know, you've been kind of conditioned to think that the government is like the Mecca, like that is what you want to strive, and very corporate. So it's taken me a while, and most of the communities that I've found have been in New York or the West Coast.
Yeah. It sounds like that you've started connecting with people, in this space that can kind of be a reality check about like what reality check, and then a support for if or when the backlash does come, to help you keep going. And I think that that's so important. And I'm really glad that you're starting to, open up this direction in your work, because, I personally believe that we need it. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I hope that we can stay connected, Yesenia.
Yes, definitely. And I'm going to get to these emails.
Yeah.
I'm relaunching my blog this weekend, and I just said, you know what? Fuck it. However it is, it's going to evolve.
Do it.
Yeah. But that's kind of that's the life journey and the healing process anyways. It's not linear. So I just said, I just have to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And if working in a group would be helpful, you can let me know later if the Right Brave workshops would be a good way to connect. But thank you so much for being brave enough to bring this up too. And I see a couple of people in the comment box saying they thank you as well. So yes. Awesome. Okay, I have a couple more questions. Ooh, we're a little bit over. This is recorded, so if people need to bounce off the call, thank you so much for being here. There'll be more resources coming out this week, but if you can still stick around, I'm just going to wrap up with the last few questions. So Tracy asked, I need to develop a business name. I'm struggling with this and trying to pull together my niche and branding. So Tracy, I can't, coming up with a business name is kind of a long process, but a few things to think of. Again, going to the root of your brand is your niche. So you're trying to pull that together. And again, your values and voice. So a business name if you're wanting to come up with a business name that's not just TracyDavisBlack.com, and TracyDavisBlack.com, Tracy Davis Black LLC is a great business name too. Like, don't let the business name stop you from doing the work. Just let the work exist first. I hope that you're practicing regardless of whether or not you have a business name. And then as it comes, as a business name develops, finding one that speaks to your values, voice, and niche might help you feel more confident about it and also communicate a little bit of your brand flavor to folks. And a little backstory, I had a business name before that was Right Brave, but then as I expanded into doing design, that wasn't clear, so I came back and defaulted to my current name, and I've been trying to find another business name that fits. To my actual name, I mean. I've been trying to find another more general, non-related to my actual name, business name that fits, and I haven't found it yet, so I'm just practicing. I'm just doing my work under my own name for now, and I'm patiently waiting for the new one to come along. I'm trying on one called the Liberation Creative Company because liberation is one of my brand values. But I haven't trademarked it yet. So don't tell anyone and don't let anybody grab it. Actually, maybe I should just grab it, but anyway. So hopefully that's helpful, Tracy. And then finally, Marshall asked on the call, as a coach healer, how do you build a list with the right type of opt-in and freebie to get leads? So Marshall's asking about building her newsletter and delivering an opt-in, like a free gift or something. So Marshall, a great resource for this is a woman named Helene Scott. So it's spelled like Helene, Helene, Scott.com. And she helps you develop a freebie that gives people a taste of what it's like to work with you and what's the first step of their change journey with you. And so you can find that somewhere on our website, but I can send that out as part of the notes to this as well. And let me just bounce back to the chat to see if there are any final questions. Melissa said she used Fiverr. It was a good starting point for her, especially with a limited budget. Melissa, if you have a recommendation for a Fiverr person to use, I would recommend that, if you want to put that in the chat. And then for Lisa asks, for branding, do you recommend a logo and practice name? I have just been using my own name and then licensed psychologist as the title for my website. I think, I think having your name as your practice name is great. And having your name on your site is great because people who are referred to you will be Googling your name, and you want to show up as that. So don't discount your own given name as your business name. It's who you are. It's, it's how people get to know you. And we'll be able to find you in a lot of ways. So, and it's probably a lot of people have more unique names than, and are easy to Google. So if you do, that's awesome. Let's see. Oh, you also asked about a logo. And Lisa, if you're just starting out, you're using a really great font for your logo and just having it be your name, your business name, is a legitimate and professional and good-looking way to go as well. A lot of people put so much pressure on their logo to do all these things and attract people, but really, it's the good work that you're doing. The effort that you're putting into reaching out to people, doing the marketing, And then the way that your marketing materials, your website, or if you're doing talks or free workshops, the way that they're connecting with people, I would say those are more important than your logo, really. And to start there. Let's see, any more questions? Oh my gosh. Trademarking, practice name, how to know when it's necessary. I don't know that much about that since I'm not a lawyer, Brett, but a legal resource that a couple of my colleagues recommend. Her name is Lisa Fraley. She's a lawyer and coach for a legal coach for healers. So lisafraley.com, LISAFRALEY. Melissa posted her recommendation. Thank you. Oh, and Lisa's not just starting out, so she's been in practice for 20 years. Awesome. Yeah, so I would say revamp it with, I'm not sure what your website looks like. I would just, try to bring the design to, if you made a website 20 years ago and you haven't touched it since then, I would try to bring the design to like 2017, like 2015-ish functionality and appearance. But really the biggest work is to make sure that you're connecting with, rewriting it to connect with your niche. And Melissa also said her husband does graphic design and says simplicity is best with logos. Yes. Awesome. Your husband and I are on similar pages. Cool. Well, we are at 11:13. Thank you all so much for staying on the line. I hope this was helpful. I took a few notes about things that I would follow up with people about in the recording and in the notes. If there's anything else, please feel free to send me an email at nikki@writebrave.com. I'm just going to start my video again to wave hello. Oh gosh, it's getting hot in here. It was so nice to chat with all of you. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question and hopped on the line with me. And I'd love to do this again. So I'm not sure when that will be, but hopefully soon. And actually I decided in the next week, I think the heat has got me like excited because it's been raining for so long here in Oakland and we've needed it. But I think the heat has got me like vibed up to create some new resources for folks. So every day for the next week between today and May 10th, I'm going to be sharing a new tip or resource on my site, and you can sign up for that by either clicking on the email that I'll send as a follow-up tomorrow, or going to NicoleBonsall.com/free-branding-stuff. Free-branding-stuff. Yeah. And I'll put that in the chat one more time. Branding stuff. And you can just sign up. Oop, just sent that to Jess. Sorry about that, Jess. Gotta send it to everybody. Put that in the chat. And yeah, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week. And for the Bay Area folks, stay cool. Bye.